3 months ago, former managing director of the Nigeria Mortgage Refinance Company, Professor Charles Nyangete, disclosed that to forestall a housing crisis in Nigeria in the next couple of years, the country would require 3.65 trillion naira to increase housing stock by 730,000 units annually. Although the actual figure of the nation's housing deficit is debatable, the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria puts the current number at 17 million units. Well, the breakdown shows that in 1991, Nigeria had a 7 million housing deficit, which increased to 12 million in 2007 and 14 million in 2010. That's just 8 years ago. Now, today, the housing and construction sector accounts for only 3.1% of the country's rebased GDP. Well, to this end, to make housing affordable for Nigerians, the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria says Nigerians who wish to buy houses below 5 million naira using mortgage loans from the FMBN will no longer have to come up with any equity deposits. It also said that for housing loans costing between 6 and 15 million naira, it is approved for the FMB to allow Nigerians deposit only 10% equity to it to be able to access the loan. All right, let's put this into perspective to talk more about what the Federal Mortgage Bank is doing and the issue of housing in Nigeria. I have in the studio housing expert Bayo Fasusi. Many thanks for your time, Bayo.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Exactly. Yes, we see these figures. Right from 2007, it was at about 7 million. To 2010, it increased almost every year. It kept on increasing as the population was progressing. But of course, we've seen how the GDP growth rate has been not in tandem with that growth that we have. First off, let's get your assessment. At the moment, what's the housing deficit like and what's the development?
Well, in Nigeria, if you look at the population of Nigeria, currently Nigeria sits at number 7 in the world. We are the 7th most populous country in the world. And at the moment, we are over 200 million. So it means that housing will be an issue based on the fact that if you look at our economy and if you look at the situation right from past government to this present moment. And I must tell you, there are 3 basic needs of any human anywhere on this planet. You're talking about food, clothing, and shelter. Shelter comes number 3. So it means if you've taken care of food and you've taken care of clothing, housing will be the next thing that you will look into. But if you look at Nigeria, there are so many challenges around us. And over the years, the housing deficit has been climbing up. Presently, it's over 17 million. 17 million. So it means there is a lot of opportunity. Because as far as I'm concerned, I try to look at it from the perspective of opportunity. There is a window, there is a big window for investors, local investors and investors that are coming, outside the country. It's a big window. And anybody that wants to make money can key into that window. Presently, it's over 17 million housing units deficit that we have in the country. And of course, it is based on our population. Our population is increasing by the day. Do you know that by 2050, Nigeria will be the 3rd most populous country in the world? After India, India will be 1.7 billion. China will be 1.6, and Nigeria will come in the 3rd place. Nigeria will be 397 million. So it means from 32 years from now, there will be opportunity in the housing sector.
Okay, so the earlier we started addressing the issues in that area, the better for Nigeria. And one of the professor I talked about earlier said just for 730,000 units, about 3.65 trillion naira is needed. Yeah. Now, the Federal Mortgage Bank is working on something for Nigerians. Affordable housing. Yes. And we discussed earlier, you told me it had been there.
Yeah, it has always been there.
Many people
the National
were not
Housing,
even aware.
yes, yeah, the National Housing Fund has always been there. It used to be 5 million, But over the years, government, was able to, put itself together, and government increased it to 15 million. Presently, it's 15 million. But what the Honorable Minister said, sometimes back, is that if you're accessing 5 million, if you're accessing 5 or below 5 million, what you just need to do is you can put down zero equity. So it means, for you to enjoy that mortgagee and mortgagor relationship, you have to put down that zero equity. So it means with #0, you can access that that loan, because loan. It's actually a loan, and that loan is supposed to be paid back, in a span of 30 years. So, but 30 years. But there are some conditions attached to that loan. Is a loan.
Many Nigerians are usually never patient.
Yes. People,
so you might need to break it down for us, what it takes.
This National Housing Fund has always been there, just like I said. It was established by Act number 3 of 1992. It has always been there. But like I said, people are not aware. But because of the advent of telecom, technology, the Honorable Minister, Mr. Raji Fashola, SAN, fantastic minister, spoke, and he said with #0, if you're accessing below 5 million, zero equity, you must be able to be you must be a contributor to that fund.
Okay, so tell us, break it down one by one, what it needs, or what we need to do to be able to access that loan.
There is a form that you filled, and that form will be provided by, you have to go through what we call the PMI, the Primary Mortgage Institution, and basically most of these...
Do we have many of them around?
Have so many of them. All these mortgage banks that we have around us, so many of them are there. You have to register. You must be a contributor. But of course, now that is zero equity, that is for the 5 million. But if you are going to access more than 5 million, then it means you must be able, or you must have it at the back of your mind to put down a certain percentage, of
about 10%.
About 10%, for that. Some of the condition, that you have is either you are building or you are buying. If you are building, it means that you must submit what you call a bill of quantity, BOQ. That BOQ gives you a summation or a summary of what the building you are putting up together will cost. And that can be given by a quantity surveyor, a certified quantity surveyor. Then, of course, you must be a contributor. That is, if you are going to access more than 5 million, if you are not accessing if you're accessing below 5 million or 5 million at the dot, you must register with a PMI. Then, of course, your title documents. What are the title documents that you have? Your building plan, your CFO, and the likes. You must be able to package all that. Then after that, you must also be able to pull down your 3 years tax clearance. You have that. Then, of course, 3 years tax clearance. A lot of people, a lot of Nigerians, I know a lot of people pay their tax, but you must also be able to put down your 3 years tax clearance, evidence of your payment of tax in the last 3 years. Then, of course, you must also be able to have a good job, a stable job. Because it's a loan. Yeah, it's a loan. It's a loan.
Unfortunately, if you do not have a job, you cannot.
You can access it.
You
can access it. And let me also tell you, the National Housing Fund was actually meant to cater for the low income and the middle income earners. Because the low and the middle income earners cannot, approach the banks. If they approach the bank will give them the loan at the commercial rate.
Okay.
And a lot of
we'll
these people
still have much more questions to ask you on how you could easy access to this loan, but we'll have to take a break. You hold your thoughts. Okay. When we come back, we'll be asking you more questions, especially when it comes to the 5 million naira to access this loan. Do I still need to wait 6 months? Those are the questions we would want to ask you about how this goes. You're watching Business Nigeria. We'll have to go on a short break. We'll be back to talk more about the housing deficit in Nigeria. Glad to have you back here watching Business Nigeria, and the focus has been housing deficit in Nigeria and what the federal government is doing to address the challenges in that sector. And one of what the government is doing is asking the Federal Mortgage Bank not to take any equity if you're accessing about 5 million naira loan for your housing development in Nigeria. But if it is beyond that, from 6 million to 15 million, it's just about 10% equity. And I've been speaking with Bayo Fasusi, a housing expert who has been breaking it down for us on how to access this loan that has been there for a while, but many Nigerians are not aware of. All right. Before I went on that break, we're talking about the processes in accessing that loan.
Yes.
And for that zero equity loan
Yes.
on 5 million,
Yes.
I know what was applicable before was that you have to pay in for
Yes.
about 6 months.
You must be
contributing
you must be
for
a
about 6
contributor
months.
for at least 6 months.
Okay, now that it's zero equity on 5 million, do we still have to wait 6 months long?
Yes, you still have to go through that 6 months window period because a lot of things will go in place. Documentation, inspection, verification, and what have you. So that 6 months period is still tenable. It's still tenable, and let's also not forget the fact that the PMI, the primary mortgage institution that you want to go through, will not single-handedly submit one. They will need to submit it, those applications,
as a whole,
as a whole in batches. So it means that 6 month period is also a time for you to also know your mortgage banker, and also to know a little bit about your mortgage bank. So that 6 month period is still, is still there.
Okay,
there.
but
it's only that you may not, if you're accessing below 5 million, you may not put down anything.
Okay.
Zero equity.
Okay, let me ask, how does it work? Do I have to get a land or buy or get a house before I can go ahead?
Yes.
What does it take?
Good question. The National Housing Fund is not for land. The National Housing Fund is meant for you to build your property or for you to buy or also to renovate. If you are building, the scheme expects you to have gotten your land. It is meant for building of your property, or you buy or renovate. It is only meant for residential building and residential property. It is not meant for commercial or any other thing. It is meant basically to ease, the housing, challenge for the low and the medium, earners.
Okay, but what if I see a new house that I want to buy?
Yes.
And I don't have the money?
Fine.
Does it mean I have to go and borrow before I be able to access the loan?
Very good question. What you need to do, for example, if you see a house that you want to buy, you do what you call valuation. You call the estate surveyor and valuer. They will come and value that property for you. What is the value of that property? After valuing that property, because it's part of the document you submit anyway, it's either you are buying, like I said earlier, it's either you are buying or you are building. In the perspective of where you are, buying, you have to do a valuation, and that valuation must be carried out by a certified estate surveyor and valuer, which they will now give that true value of that property. So it's part of what you submit in your documentation. You must show evidence that you have a good job, a job that can sustain that loan, because it's a loan anyway. Then, of course, you have to do your valuation report, submit your building plan, and what have you. Then, of course, you must also show all those things that I mentioned earlier, your tax clearance certificate for the past 3 years, then evidence that you have a relationship with that, primary mortgage institution, which is usually the mortgage, bank. So those are the things that you will need to have at the back of your mind. Then on the other side, if you are building, instead of you submitting the valuation certificate or report, you submit what you call the bill of quantity. Okay. Then, of course, you have to submit your building plan, your architectural design, your structural plan, and your structural design.
All that is needed.
The title document. Okay. All that is needed.
To build for the building.
For you to build, because those are the things that you actually will use for your documentation. And of course, those people in Abuja, they usually do what you call verification. They will come and verify. They select at random. They will do what you call verification to know that that property, if you're buying anyway, if you're buying, to know that the property is existing. And if you want to build, they want to know where you are going to build. Where are you building?
Okay, so with all this that you have told me now, how long does it take for this process to eventually come to fruition?
Well, like I said, you know, the National Housing Fund is a pool of fund provided by government and, you know, some other.
I'm sure you've had experiences, really.
Yes.
Just tell us, is it 1 year? Is it 6 months? After the 6 months,
well,
is it?
I may not be able to answer that on here, you know, based on the fact that it can come faster than you think. So if you're interested, or if you can key into that scheme, anything after 6 months, 6 months, 1 year, it can. I mean, you should. You can
access the loan.
Yeah, you can access the loan.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you for clearing the area around that, accessing the FMBN loan and what Nigerians need to know about that loan especially. And we are hoping that with the federal government upping the game from 5 million to more than what it used to be, we hope that a lot of people can actually address their housing challenges in Nigeria. Yes. Thank you so much, Bayo Fasusi. We appreciate your time on Business Nigeria.
Thank you.